evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. January 12th, in-depth session of the Muscatine City Council. At the in-depth meetings, we do away with some of the more formalities like the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll move right in. Fran, would you please do the roll call?
Councilmembers Raywalt.
Present.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Nafig.
Present.
Salcedo.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Harvey.
Present.
Spread.
Present.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you, Fran. We're going to move right along with our agenda tonight. Next, we have an actual resolution setting a public hearing on urban renewal plan amendment. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
Spread?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Nafig?
Aye.
And Bynum.
Aye.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. Moving on to number 3. We have a resolution setting public hearing on proposed development agreement with HNI Corporation, including the annual appropriation of tax increment payments. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Bill? Do we, is
Second.
there any discussion tonight? Hearing none. Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
Spread?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Nafig?
Aye.
And Bynum.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Moving on to number 4 on tonight's agenda, we have a request to authorize and instruct the city attorney to file written charges of removal pursuant to Iowa Code, Chapter 66 and Section 176 of the Muscatine City Code. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Your Honor, the actual motion should be in front of the council for amendment?
Somebody gave it to him to read?
Yes. You should have a copy as well.
The honors, okay. An elected official may be removed from office for, among other reasons, misconduct or maladministration in office, and willful or habitual neglect or refusal to perform the duties of the office. And willful misconduct or maladministration in office can include, but is not limited to, conduct such as repeated public criticism of the city or staff, repeatedly engaging in defamatory attacks against the city, staff, or public, breach of fiduciary duties, and other conduct which tends to erode public confidence in the city or staff. Habitual neglect or refusal to perform the duties of office can include, but is not limited to, such conduct as repeated breaches of the public official's fiduciary duties and/or repeated failure to follow established city ordinances or policies. It appears the mayor may have engaged in some of the foregoing conduct to the detriment of the city and in contravention of her established duties, and as such, written charges for removal should be filed to determine if the mayor should be removed from office as a result of such conduct. Therefore, the City Council of the City of Muscatine hereby motions to instruct the city attorney to draft and file written charges for the removal of the mayor as provided for in Iowa Code, Chapter 66, and City Code, Section 1-7-6.
So you've already voted?
No.
Pardon?
That's the full motion.
Okay. Well, that's not what the last sentence, that's not what the last paragraph says. Any other discussion?
Public discussion.
There will be.
So are we
None
treating
from
this
you?
as an amendment?
Anybody in the public want to speak?
Your Honor, I call for the motion.
I'm going to let the public speak, but you can go ahead and call for the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Anybody in the public wish to speak tonight?
Point of clarification, Your Honor.
Yes.
I believe that was a motion to move the question, and when you have a motion to move the question, you vote on that question, and then you vote on the original motion that was made, which was
All in
read by
favor, say
Councilmember
aye.
Raywalt.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then one more point of clarification, Your Honor. Under council rules, that ceases all discussion and debate on the topic.
I'm going to allow the people in the community to get up and say what they would like to say. Please state your name and address for
Roger
council.
Roth, Clark House. We, the people, also have grievances against the council as well. When O'Brien was in office, we had something called the pit dog law. I came in on the third reading. What did I see? Council, insurance agents, myself. Constitutional law is that may be at risk here, and that could be put in the case as well, under discovery. Isn't the government supposed to regulate commerce, not pander to their wishes, as in the pit dog law? As to Hopkins, our great roundabout, somebody representing an insurance company through the blue zone identity stood up and praised it. That's an insurance company. I'm sorry, you did it again. What happened to the oath of office there? I was here when a council member even suggested that the city administrator be in charge of the police department. What are you trying to do, make a Tojo out of this place? He was the one that went to the emperor every time and got one job after another, till he became the head of the government. The emperor was nothing more than a pencil pusher. You people have a relook at yourselves as well. We are your employers, not something that stands up here, blabbers his mouth, and you don't want to listen because the city attorney says you don't have to until we vote. That's a constitutional violation itself, because the Constitution, Bill of Rights says redress of grievances, and that also includes ideas that may be of benefit. I guess if you don't want us here, we don't have to be here as long as you run what I suspect to be your democratic people's government of the city of Muscatine. That's a violation of Article 4, Section 4 of the federal Constitution, a Republican form of government where we, the people, are in charge, not the council.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Master Muffler.
Please state your name and address for council.
My name is Ann Brumback. I live at 2235 Cobblestone Drive here in Muscatine. Mayor Brodesson and council members, I'd like to first thank you for allowing me to address you this evening in regards to what I think is nothing more than a witch hunt. For 25 years, I spent my life in EMS giving back to my community. I gave up countless hours with my family, countless hours personal time. Not only did I do that, but I also volunteered in this community. Since turning 18, I've never once missed my opportunity to vote, and I take that very seriously. This city council decided from day one that they did not want Mayor Broderson in office. You took it upon yourselves to do everything possible to ensure that the mayor was blackballed. We as citizens of Muscatine went to the polls and we cast our vote. You didn't like it. The vendettas against the mayor since April are simply because the council did not get their way. According to Iowa Code, According to Iowa Code 372.14, it states, "The mayor is the chief executive officer of the city and presiding officer of the council. Except for supervisory duties which are delegated to the city manager, the mayor shall supervise all city offices and departments." Iowa Code 400.2 discusses the qualifications of commissioners. The mayor did nothing illegal when commissioners were chosen. You, the council, say that you may have specifics, but yet you don't give any of us, the citizens who voted for this mayor, what your specifics may-haves are. Iowa law states that you, the council, do not have a choice in who is appointed. The mayor has that. And for you, the council, to have that choice, you must change Iowa law. Ousting the mayor isn't going to change the law, ladies and gentlemen. To remove the mayor from office, Iowa Code 66.1A states, any appointed or elected officer except such may be removed only by impeachment, holding any public office in the state or in any division or municipality thereof, may be removed from office for one of the following reasons. We know she hasn't done anything willfully or habitually. We know she hasn't shown any misconduct in the office. She hasn't committed corruption or extortion. She hasn't been convicted of a felony, and she hasn't had any campaign disclosures that are illegal. None of these things have been violated. The Iowa Attorney General's office stated, and I quote, "There is absolutely no authority for city officials in a city of a population of more than 8,000 people to have a paid fire department and a paid police department to be able to diverge from the requirements of the section." With all due respect to our city administrator, sir, you hired your best friend, Dave Gobin, to be our developmental director. People with master's degrees applied, and your friend got hired and he has a high school diploma. You, as the council, took it. All you people are is manipulated yes men to the city administrator. As a voting citizen of this community, I am absolutely appalled that this city council is more concerned about a good old boy system than they are about keeping business in this town, making sure people have jobs, and making sure our money is spent locally, not in Davenport, Iowa, or in Iowa City. I ask that you, the council, be considerate of not only my vote, but the votes of the citizens of this community. You work for us. We do not work for you. If there's a problem with the mayor, we as citizens, the ones who voted the mayor in, have the right to come to you as council and say, we would like you to investigate. You don't have the right to tell us what you're going to do. We tell you what to do. Finally, I'd like to say not only to the citizens, but to the mayor and to the council, if this continues, I will personally go door to door and ask for signatures from every citizen in this community. I will submit those to the Attorney General's office, and I will seek to have charges brought against the council based on the first point being illegal closed-door sessions that you leave the mayor out of. This is a time for us as a community to come together. We need to work together to make this a better community, and you people in the city council need to stop acting like children throwing sand in a sandbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Birnbach. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak tonight? Please state your name and address for the council.
Roger Strong, 2120 Bidwell, Muscatine. Been a lifelong resident of this community, and I guess I'm going to commend, and then I'm going to slam the city council tonight. This is the most professional, awake-looking this council has looked in the last 9 to 10 months. I've been off on medical, I've watched it on TV. Phil sits over there cracking jokes, clicking his pen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Santos looks like he's asleep. Poor Bob here, he's almost on his deathbed, but he's here. We've got lawyer wannabes, we've got comics, et cetera, et cetera. Tonight is the most professional I've seen any of you act like you are city council members. You've acted like a comic relief up until this point. This whole thing is just sickening. Sickening, the whole thing. From the election, when Hopalong Hoppy didn't make it, to right up to today. So I guess we'll just say The Good Old Boys Club is alive in Muscatine, and wait for the next thing to happen.
Thank you, Strong.
Pardon me?
Something wrong?
Thank you,
No.
Mr. Strong.
Started.
Any, it's the time for the people to speak now. Would anyone else like to speak?
But I can't get out of here.
I'm sorry, but you do need to come to the microphone. Can someone help her get out?
She needs
We can wait. It needs to be in the microphone so the people at home can hear, because it is being recorded.
don't have one.
You don't need to hurry, we can wait. We've had longer council meetings than this.
Mike's inclined to let them talk as long as they're held to a time limit.
You might as well, the mayor has the discretion to extend the time period. You might want to move the microphone down just a little bit.
3 minutes. Mayor, are we observing time limits tonight?
We are with extensions as needed.
Well, Madam Mayor and council members and my fellow voters, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but
Please state your name and address.
I am Judy Rivera, and I live at 909 East 6th Street. This is the first time in my 70 years that I have been ashamed to be from Muscatine. I think this is a deplorable situation. I am very disappointed in you, Santos. I thought a lot higher of you. I'm just, well, now that I'm up here, I don't know what even to say, except that I just think this is a deplorable situation. We, the people, voted. We chose a different mayor than the council wanted. Now, you folks need to accept our vote, and you, sir, need to behave yourself. Maybe you're the one that needs to go. Don't look so disgusted. I have a mind, I have a sound mind, and I can state my own mind.
Thank you.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Taylor Williams. I live at 111 East 6th Street. I would like to begin tonight by applauding Judy. This is what democracy is right here. She worked harder than most people to do something that most people would not do, and I applaud her for that. I am speaking tonight to express my dissatisfaction with the City Council. It is obvious to everyone here tonight that the resolution being put forth is not for the good of our town. Rather, your attempted removal of our democratically elected leader represents the will of your corporate sugar daddies. Vote your conscience or we will vote ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anyone else? Please state your name and address.
I'm the unknown citizen. I'm sorry. Good evening. My name is Osmond Malcolm. I live at 516 West 4th Street. Most of the council members have met me one way or another, the mayor and everybody else. And I'm sorry, most people have met me one way or another. Most of the time I'm at the YMCA, lifting weights. I'm new to the community, and I find it interesting being in a political office in Chicago for a number of years, seeing the process here. And I'm concerned because the people speak. And I wonder how much money of tax dollars is going to be spent doing something that people don't want. Who's paying for that? Are you going to raise our taxes to do that? I'm concerned about that. And even if you did remove the mayor, who's going to take her place for the rest of her term? And who decides that? We've already decided we wanted her, so if you council take her away, who and how are you going to decide who's going to replace her? And once again, it's always about the money. All of us work and earn money and pay our taxes, and we entrust you to use our tax dollars wisely. This doesn't seem like a wise use of our money. And just not to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Please state your
Council.
name and address.
My name is Nathan Baker, 508 Woodlawn. I have to say that I'm truly sickened by your deplorable actions here tonight. The idea that you would resort to theater rather than actually leading our town is atrocious. You guys do not deserve to be up there representing us anymore. We've elected someone, and you guys are trying to spit at that. Every one of you who votes yes, I do not feel will ever sit up here ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Is there anyone else tonight?
My name is Diane Main. I live at 2207 Wallace Street, and I would like to say that I'm very disappointed in the city council. I would also like to say I am a mother that has raised 3 children, and I would be very, very unproud of you people sitting on the city council. Now, with that being said, I don't expect my children to, get along. I tell my kids they need to get along with everybody, and to me, you guys are showing very, very much disrespect for Diana.
Thank you, Mrs. Main.
My name's Robert McFadden. I live at 2314 Pinefield. And I don't know about the rest of the people in town, but I really don't know what the problem is, and I'd kind of like to hear from each and every council member what their problem is. I mean, we all got plenty of time tonight. Each council member could give a little speech. I mean, there may be some problem we don't know about. I ain't against the council. I ain't saying I'm against the council members. I kind of want to know what the hell is going on. What their problem is. I think we got plenty of time to hear from the council members.
My name is Claire Martin, 1574 Washington Street. In the news a little while back, there was, I think it was Rock Island that, I want to speak to the public, not to the council. They decided that they wanted to have a gender board where they had 3 females and 3 males on the city council board. If we vote again, I don't know how these people run or how they are elected, but I think the community should think about something like that and make that a point that there's a balance somehow. what the problem is, I'm not sure, but I do believe that Diana can be misunderstood and not taken seriously. And I know from personal experience that she can rub you the wrong way, but that's not a reason to eliminate her. You need to take time to know the people that are in that position, no matter who it is, and if they're a fish out of water, then treat them how you think you should be treated, and give them the benefit of the doubt. The problems that were read tonight was that she doesn't do her duties, she's not there when she's supposed to be. I was under the impression it was a part-time job, was it not? And that you can put your time in. If she's not doing her job right, you know, I don't know if that's the issue. That's what I got from what you read off, Mike. Isn't that what you read, that her duties aren't, she's not there for her duties?
No, I don't believe that was in here.
What was it that you said, that she's not?
Yes. Just go ahead.
That's what we asked.
Okay, well,
What is the problem?
yeah, and I kind of think that you just have to reconsider what you're doing. I don't know how far it's gone, but reconsider what you're doing, and it's going to make everybody unhappy, including the panel here, because, you know, you have to reap the seeds that you sow, and it's just not heard of in a small town like this. And you know, I could see if everybody, if they don't like Trump, do something with Trump, you know, but not Diana. She don't deserve it. So that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. Is there anyone else tonight?
I'm not sure.
My name is Max Kaufman, 1609 Foster Street.
Oh, Matt.
Hi, Tony. I fought to have a fair democracy in this country. And in a fair democracy, we elect our officials. And we don't have a kangaroo court after the election to disrupt our elections, to oust our elected officials. So therefore, I don't feel that it's a fair thing that we're doing to our mayor, to oust her simply because the elected officials that are sitting here don't seem to like her, no more so than the Senate would oust the president because they don't happen to get along with the president. That's not the way we do things in my country. That's not what I fought for. As for you, Mr. Administrator, you were hired and you can be fired. So I'm calling each of you councilmen out one-on-one. I'd like you to go around, starting with you, Mr. Raywalt, and I'd like you to tell us, the people, why you feel it's necessary to oust Ms. Broderson. All I have to say.
Jackson. Well, the definition of, well, there's many definitions of wisdom, but one would be not to speak without knowing what you're talking about. There will be a hearing. This is not a vote to oust the mayor tonight. This is a vote to hold the hearing, yes or no. There will be a hearing where the mayor's allowed to hire her attorney and make her case. You don't know what's going to be presented in that hearing, but yet you're speaking as experts. We know for a fact that the mayor is this, this, or this. We know for a fact that the council is this or this. You don't know. Whatever was presented to the council that we're not privy to yet, but we will be if we're patient, then we can make our determination how we feel about it once we have the information. We don't have the information, so to stand up and make this big proclamation and declaration, you will. This isn't a microwave. This is a turkey. It's going to take a few hours to cook. It takes time. It's a legal process. She has time to.
Trying to remove her from the day he got in.
This is the vote that they're having tonight is a vote for a hearing. They're not voting tonight to remove. They are not voting tonight to remove her from office. They're voting yes or no. Should we have a hearing? At that hearing, that's when things are made public. That's when she has a chance to have a defense, just like any legal process.
Why should she have to pay for an attorney herself?
Any person that's accused of anything is
That's yet to
going
be
to have an attorney.
determined.
Why are we paying for a city attorney to do something we don't want him to do?
Because
Well, we can't,
you're making
we
that.
can't get
you're-
into
You're making
discussions
that
with
assumption
each other.
based on information that you don't have. When the council is presented with information,
Mr. Foster,
when the council is based on information, they will vote yes or no to have the hearing. It takes a time. It's a process. Be patient. In a couple weeks,
Mr.
everyone will know.
is there anyone else? Hearing nothing, we're going to move on. The next thing on tonight's agenda,
Mayor,
yes,
John Cook took his agenda item off the agenda.
okay. And Jim? We want to hear what you have to say, Jim. Jim Edgemond is our city engineer, and he's going to talk to us tonight, give us a public project overview and the process. How long are you thinking, Jim? Give him an idea.
45 minutes ought to do it. No, this is not going to be very long. There are some handouts that you guys had there. I'm going to tell you straight away that the last sheet on it is not part of this presentation. I thought we were going to have a couple little presentations we were going to do, but we pulled one of those off the agenda. So it's the first 3 sheets of that have to do with this presentation tonight.
Okay.
One of the things that it is incumbent every once in a while to review is that, you know, in the process of doing capital improvements, those public projects, there's several different processes that you go through. And this is to give you an overview. So there's going to be some detail that's in this presentation. I will give a copy of this to Fran, and she can distribute it out to all of you. And it probably ends up getting posted, I would guess, too. So if there are some specific questions that you have, I'd be willing to answer them now, or you can ask them at any time later. But before I launch on this, I just want to say that any process that you can model, any process that you can define, any process that you can write down the steps that go with it, you know, there's always an opportunity to look at that, to evaluate it, and see if there are places that it can be done faster, better. Obviously, the emphasis on better, and perhaps less cost. You know, that's one of the true tenets. The first task is to figure out what that process is. So what I want to do is ask just a couple questions real quick, because I would like to hit the target and not miss it. If the primary concern of the council, or of you, the council and the mayor individually, is that there's concern, or the perception even, that it takes too long to get from concept to construction on a public project, if the perception is if that's too long a period, or if the perception is that the construction tends to take too long, and that is the concept of the concern. I guess I would like to know maybe which one of those, because I can kind of tool this presentation to adapt that. So think about those two options for a second, and then raise your hand when I say, is it the length of time of construction that's your biggest concern?
That's my biggest concern.
Okay. And anybody else?
Yeah,
Or is
so-
it,
so
go ahead,
I'm-
Santos.
I'm wanting to know really what both of them are, because.
Yeah, okay.
You know, is the DOT process run faster when we get a project and we execute?
Yep.
Is a city project, you know, given to us and we say, hey, we want to redo Mississippi Drive and it's going to take us 2 years?
Right.
Is this step, you know, this whole chart that you're doing, is this what takes us the longer time? Or is it because
Okay.
the execution of the job itself?
Okay.
Is that what's, so I'm challenged
Okay.
by both of them, and
All
I'm
right.
not saying that.
Well, that's
I
good,
just
and
wanna
this
make
is
sure
kind of
that
geared to
we-
both. I just thought I would give that opportunity if everybody raised
I
their
just
hand
wanna
and said,
understand
what
them
really
more.
concerns me is how long it takes us to get construction. I can tool this presentation to address that a little bit more, but it sounds like there's concerns on both sides of that. So we will launch. So there's always the concept to public projects as to what you're going to do. You're going to build sidewalk. That's why this little slide is up in the corner here on the opening slide. That's the sidewalk poetry. That's a stamp, and we decided to do that as on a kind of a trial basis and figure out how it might work. But certainly including sidewalk poetry in a sidewalk project isn't probably the most efficient, nor is it the most cost-effective way to do sidewalk. So there's always other aspects to public improvements other than efficiency and the fast. There's a public benefit, public quality of life, those attributes that always go along with it that really aren't there on projects that get done on the private side. So I just wanted to bring that out real quick. This slide has a lot of text on it. Yes, I know, and it's kind of to consume at your leisure. But all it really does is consume. All it does is have on it what's on the left-hand side is to highlight things about public projects, and on the right to give a comparison to private projects. I tended to lean more on corporate-type private projects because that's what I know. But you know, the thing that you need to take out of this is going down on that public side. You know, there are rules, especially that come with funding, like federal and state funding, that just absolutely cannot be broken. And a good example of that is the Buy American Act. Nobody will argue with you with the concept of that, but certainly the Buy American Act doesn't make you as inexpensive on a project as you could be. There's also City Procurement Code. And obviously, if you don't do those, you know, you're accountable, or we as staff are accountable to City Council. The whole group of us is accountable to the public. I mean, what we need to do is not take risks, is to basically be there to protect the public interest. And I don't want to be too draconian about this, too heavy-handed about this, but especially with this group here, and especially with the press here. This is a bad example. I'm going to seriously think about not using it.
You're doing good, you're doing good.
I am not going to use that example. I'll find something else, because that is too, I can see it on the news afterwards. That's just a bad example. There's an example, yes, Mulberry. We did file a statement finding a public interest with the DOT on a federally funded project to be able to use recycled material for the base instead of what they call virgin aggregate or made aggregate, and that's something that you can do, you know, within the rules, but still be innovative and save costs. So that's a good example of having to do that, but you still have to work within the rules. And if you blatantly disregard those rules, you run the risk of getting classified as wanton disregard for those rules, and the state and the feds can do things like pull funding for a project if you don't do those. That never happens on a private project. You know, my perception from my time in the private world was, if there was a rule and you could figure out a way to bend it, and it saved you time and or money, that was good for you, and it was good for the corporation. So there are distinct differences. I don't want to hammer on this much more. I think everybody can read down through there. The bottom one on there is obviously on the private side. I've seen examples of private industries deciding that time is more important than money, or money is more important than time. But in instances where the time is more important than the money, that they can accelerate a project by authorizing overtime and throwing more money at a project to get it done quicker. And that's obviously not something that we can do. Nancy would certainly have a big problem with us deciding to do something like that, and everybody else that's in here would too. So that's, some of the things are just not available to us.
But when you say hit a
Go
target,
ahead.
when you say hit a target, if we say hypothetically, we want something by February of 2018, February 2018 it should be. When you don't.
True.
When we have something that continues to get extended and extended, then that's where I'm challenged with in my due process of saying, well, okay, that's a private project, that's a public project, but if we set a date and we have a contract with a contractor,
Let me get
that's
two more,
where,
let me
that's
get two
where
more
I'm.
slides into it, and we'll come right
Okay.
back to that.
Okay.
All right, I know this looks the same. This basically compares a public project with state and federal funds on the left, and a project that's just city dollars on it on the right. And I'm not going to belabor what's in there, except to tell you that when there's state and federal funds, it gets almost unbearably complicated. And we do projects of both kind, and there needs to be a lot of decision, consideration, and discussion that goes into a project before you start it, and decide up front whether you really want to use federal funds to do a project or not. And if you need that money and you decide to do that, you just have to realize that that's going to be part of the project. On average, the last time I checked statistics, from concept to completion of a project that has state and federal money on it in the state of Iowa, the average time is 7 years. Now, Mulberry took 4. So, and obviously Mulberry isn't exactly done yet. There's still a few things to do, but by the time we get it done in the spring, it'll be 4 years of the whole entire process. The little extension we did on Diana Queen, still with doing it with our own funds and doing it as fast as we could because we knew we had to have that done before Mulberry started, was 1.5 years from concept to completion. So I'm just going to blow on through that. There's details that you can deal with or read when we distribute it out to you. Let me look here real quick. Yes, something I did forget to say up front, and I want to say it here before we go on to this, because this, I think, deals a little bit more with what you were just saying, Santos. We do, at the end of every project that we do, sit down with the people that we feel were most involved with it or can most benefit with it, and do we call it a postmortem, but basically it's a lessons learned session with, when we do this again, did this work, what worked, and what didn't work.
You do that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do we
It's
see
not an old thing we do. This is new, this is something that I have done since I have been here.
Okay.
The CDBG project, we did a lessons learned sit down. Colorado, because as a construction project manager on that, we did the lessons learned session with that, with the consultant that had designed it, prior to letting them do the work on Mulberry.
Is that shared with the other managers? Are those lessons learned spanned out to the other project managers that work for other projects?
Within the city?
Yeah.
It basically always includes everybody that was involved in the project. There are other times when we pull other people into that.
Yeah, but then you're not sharing it with everyone. You're only sharing it with
no.
the people that were involved in the project. So that's
Right.
something that we could look at and say, hey, you know,
Sure.
next time,
Sure.
you know, we, like you mentioned, you used recycled aggregate. That was
Right.
recycled aggregate from the airport.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
you knew about that one, so if somebody knew and they shared that information with that would be an opportunity for maybe the.
Sure,
you know, right, so that-
we can think about
just
that.
something-
I'm
something.
sure there's methodology in there somewhere to do that, to distribute it out.
I just
For
think
sure.
that and I know I'm new in many senses, but it takes too long. I get challenged with that. I'm not
Yes.
trying not
No,
to
I
say
understand
I
that.
get frustrated with it, and I don't mean any you know, it's a challenge for me because I feel like we could improve. 7 years is too long. 4 years I still think is too long, but I'm learning, so I hope
Okay.
that we can improve, and we can look for ways, there's efficiencies and ways that we can improve on that.
Okay. So this slide has to do with what you said about deadlines, because I perceived that maybe we really needed to say something about that. On the left, if we have a project that has state and federal money in it, we go through the DOT letting process. It would take certainly an act of Congress, I guess, to change how the state DOT does there. They do their public projects one way and one way only, and that's a working day contract. And we have been successful with plugging into that contract specific dates for specific things. Mulberry is the best example of that. We had a date put in there that the intersection of Hauser and Mulberry needed to be done in advance of school opening back up, and that worked. Absolutely, that worked. It was a great idea. But the working days that go along with a contract like that, because of some of the other things that happened, including delay from utilities and things like that, drug on. We didn't get it finished, but the contractor did have the working days to do that. The original completion date on Mulberry was late fall, I think into September projected to be, and that's just how a working day contract can work. And, you know, it sometimes seems to drag on forever. But I am not going to argue with the DOT, and I would suggest that we not argue with the DOT about how to do those types of public projects.
So the DOT is involved in our projects?
Very much so, when there's state and federal money. Yes.
So there is our process that we have here. Is this similar to the process?
On this handout
The way
that you
that flow
have,
chart is.
it has these 2 pages. In fact, what I should do is this. Yes, that wonderful process is our good friends at the DOT.
Okay.
And you have to work
Their
through that.
parameters and what they're
Yes.
set, okay.
You have
that's
to
what I
work
wanted.
through that. Every little box up there that has a color in it can account for not days, not months, but if it's a complicated project, years. Right-of-way acquisition on something you need to do right-of-way acquisition on is an indeterminate amount of time. Mulberry, because it was relatively simple, Phil can attest to this, we did all the right-of-way acquisition ourselves to try to save money and time. And we were successful with that, but it sometimes is not like that. It can drag on for forever. And environmental clearance, I don't think anybody needs to know what possibilities are on that with the time it took to get Mississippi Drive corridor done. And there are other things up there that just can take a long time.
Jim?
Yes?
Would you be so kind as to go back a slide, please?
Sure. That's exactly what I was planning on doing next.
Okay. On the left side, we can have so many working days. Who sets those numbers of working days?
The DOT does, but they do give you a chance to protest or to argue your case for why it should be more or less. They will sometimes take that and sometimes not. If they don't agree with your argument. But I mean, you think about all the number of local agency projects the DOT does through contracts. Think about all that.
Have we ever invited the DOT to sit in on, you know, review our process, look at some of the projects and see their input? Maybe they can see if there's opportunities?
I think you said, are we ever invited to do that?
Have we ever invited them?
No.
Maybe we could look at that. Again, something down.
We can, yep. I think we could. I don't know that we would be successful in that. Maybe volunteering to go up there and meet with them to discuss it, you know, would probably be a better animal, but I'm not sure how that would work. We'd have to think about
So
it.
you're looking at having DOT review the processes we use for non-DOT projects?
Or DOT projects as well too, because if I'm just looking at if there's ways that we can improve that flow chart that was up there that has about many steps. Could we look at it and maybe they're viewing and saying, oh, you don't need to do this one, or hey, this will cut out a month, and maybe this one won't. And we didn't know that, because we're following their guidelines and their parameters. And if they do the projects all over the state, they know the rules better than we do. And I'm just saying, if we've ever invited them to look at our process, we could reach out to somebody at the state, somebody involved in the transportation, and say, hey, can we look at this and just review? Because I want to start a project, I want to have a date, and I want to meet that date. And that's really the only hangup that I get. It just,
and
when
I
I
understand
get
that.
phone calls, people say, hey, are we going to have, when's Mulberry going to open up? Oh, they told me, the city engineer said mid-November.
I have the
Mid-November
same people
comes, I say
contact me,
mid,
yes.
And that just,
Right.
it's difficult to work through, and so I don't understand, and that's
Right.
why I'm saying. So that's it. I
At
don't
the,
wanna talk some more.
on the bottom of that, with a working day contract, you know, if there is extra work that comes along, or there are additional quantities that need to be done, the contractor always has the ability to request extra days for that extra work. In fact, the DOT insists that a change order that is written and that they will approve has to address that specific subject, because they have gotten themselves in trouble legally with trying to assess liquidated damages when that isn't done. So over on the right is a public project that has dollars, no federal or state in it. In the past, predominantly what we've done is just use the calendar date deadline. And sometimes liquidated damages have been in on those projects, and sometimes they have not. And I think it is always good to evaluate that. For example, the sidewalk project had a specific calendar date deadline to be substantially complete. And even though it was late in the year, it worked. I mean, all of that sidewalk got done by the date. Unfortunately, the weather came in, and there's still a little bit of grading and a little bit of seeding to do out there. But from my standpoint, what needed to be done is done. But in private or in public work like that, where it's just our money, we have the same problem. Liquidated damages are a two-edged sword. There are people who would legally argue that if you do liquidated damages on missing the deadline, you have to do incentives if you get there ahead of time. And my perception is that most public bodies absolutely hate incentive payments. I mean, hate incentive payments. And if you get the reputation, my perception now again, this is no absolute cast in concrete and carved in stone. If you get the reputation as a city of being one that brutally assesses liquidated damages, no question, and anything else, you start to spend more money for your public contracts because you have that reputation. And we aren't exactly blessed with a lot of contractors who bid these projects. We would really be, we would be hard pressed if one of the bigger construction companies in this town decided to quit bidding work in town. I know that's a tough decision. I'm not sure that they ever would, but if you dinged them hard with liquidated damages, they might seriously think that. So to me, you always have to take the approach of working with the contractor to the fullest extent. And the thing that is always compromised on is time. And that leads to the problem that you have and most everybody here has, and the problem that I have is that you work and you do schedules and you say, when is it going to be done, when is it going to be done, what's going to be done, the week before Thanksgiving, Mulberry. And it wasn't. And those sorts of things are, in my opinion, not really fixable with any sort of improvement in the process. You have to either just decide that you're going to do that and assess liquidated damages blindly, or you're not. But the possibility exists. We've got models, we have processes that we have shown there, and we can certainly look at it and investigate other places that maybe have addressed the same situation, because it's not a new problem.
Let's just say we're going to look at it.
Yeah.
And you know, if contractors have the belief that they can bid and not be held accountable, well, I will also look at those. I work in the private business, and if I constantly saw a certain contractor always miss targets, I know personally I'd never hire them. You know, if I hired a contractor to do my house and they said, hey, yeah, we're going to get it December 1st and it's February 2nd, I highly doubt I'm going to hire them to do another job in my job. And I'm going to share that with more colleagues and say, yeah, don't hire these guys because they always miss the target. You have to be doing the due diligence to get the best, you know, service for a contractor. And that was why we requested this, because we want to understand, is there something better? That's why, you know, when you say that we can, I'm challenged by that. That's why I said, let's look at the DOT, let's look at other things, and then let's see if we can find something that we can do.
But one of the things that comes along with a public project is that I suppose that somehow we could exclude a contractor and not let them bid. But if you have a contractor that you know is capable of doing the work, even if they habitually miss a deadline and they're the low bidder, I don't know how we deal with that. So maybe that's part of what we need to look at too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at safety, you look at all the items, and we look at, again, that's way in depth more than what we're requesting. I'm just giving you the
Just a quick comment. We're held to a substantially higher standard, so missing deadlines is not going to be a reason to reject the low bidder in a city project. We have to have substantially more bad actions, we'll say, or bad actors in order to reach that standard, and otherwise we're going to lose that in a court case. We're held to a substantially higher standard than simply missing those deadlines. For example, a lawsuit may not even be a high enough standard to reach that deadline now.
But doesn't that affect budgets? Doesn't that impact the whole project itself if they continue to miss targets?
Oh, it does. It does.
So then-
But it doesn't mean that we can necessarily reject the low bidder the next time around. We're held to a different
So
standard.
we're going to hire somebody again.
We have to
Again,
hire that
I don't want to get in depth in that. We can, let's look at something that we can do, and then we can
Okay.
discuss further. There's just some inputs that I feel that we
All right.
should address.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
I understand that, to get good service, one needs to be a good customer. But by the same token, how can a contractor look askance at us if we say, the contract says you're going to be done on day X, and you're not done? How does that make the city a bad person?
There are very few examples of that. The reason that Mulberry missed those original things that we discussed here with you the week before Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving and that whole little ride we went for had to do with the weather delays that went along with it and unforeseen, unanticipated utility delays, specifically related to one specific utility.
Yeah, they don't get a buy on those working days when it's somebody else's fault?
They do get a buy on those working days. You can't count a working day, according to the DOT specs, if there's something that specifically delays the contractor from working on the critical path method work item. So those are other things, and those are things that in a private job you wouldn't care. I wouldn't care.
If they get a buy on those days that are caused by somebody else problems, did the Mulberry project still get done on the number of working days that were allotted?
Yes and no. There's a small little no in there, and that's the seeding will be done in the spring. And that work for the seeding in the spring will be days that will go past the working day deadline.
Jim, one delay that I know is out of our control, I remember on the initial Mississippi Drive, the archaeological.
The phase one investigation,
went on forever, it seemed like, before I don't know if they were short-handed or what Greg maybe remembers. But.
Well, I mean, I think it was up there, but I know for sure it's gone at least 8 years. I know we're still messing with it, dealing with it. So it's on projects where you get complicated like that, it can take forever. And obviously, Santos Point is well taken. Maybe we should be looking at some of this stuff, but again, when you look at this stuff, I can't emphasize this enough. When you look at this stuff and these projects and this process, you always have to keep in mind that you can't run afoul of the state and federal funding requirements. You can't run afoul of the city's own procurement code. There are just rules and regulations, and basically, unlike in the private industry where your job would be to see how efficiently you could get it done, on the public side, staff is there to the most extent to make sure that you've got somebody that knows how to negotiate their way through all these rules and regulations and comply with this stuff. So, I mean, there's a distinct difference in the approach. I'm not saying, again, like I've said before, if we model this and we go through it, maybe we'll find something that's just glaring as all get out. And
That's all
we
I'm
certainly
asking.
can do that.
That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying that I'm not saying we turn the city into a private industry. I'm just, I know there's rules, I know that there's guidelines we gotta follow to the state, but maybe the state can look at some of the things we're doing and give you some ideas. That's all I'm asking.
Jim, understand that we have
Sure.
a lot of confidence in you and your team and the teams you work with.
Yeah.
And we just think, if we all
Right.
put our minds
And
to it, we can.
that is not the perception here. I mean, obviously, I'm doing this just to reiterate what these are and to try. That's the reason I had the question up front, was to make sure that we were focusing in on where the perception was and where the concern is. So, the one thing that I want to make sure that you do know is, second one down on the right, even though the Mississippi Drive corridor is listed up there as 100% state funds, there is a portion of that that is quasi-federalized. There's a term for you. And we are letting that on our own schedule, and it's going to happen very, very soon here. But in the form of that contract, it's going to be a working day contract, but there are going to be specific pieces that will have calendar deadlines. There's a very critical piece downtown, hopefully all of you know what that is, and that's going to be done that way with distinct liquidated damages. And trust me, that's not one that we will play nice with, because it's a critical deadline. We just can't afford to miss that one. So that's the DOT process. That's what we go through. These two pages, which are also in your handout, I don't know that I need to go through all that. The steps are very similar, but basically that's just a step-by-step process of what you do when you go through and do a project without any state or federal money. So it's this page plus that page. Obviously, there are things in there like going through the competitive bidding process, public, it says hearing, that's not exactly right, it's public information meetings. I guess you guys do have the public hearing at council level and approve the plans and specs. And I think if you have any questions about that process, we can do that for another meeting. So that's kind of the information and everything else. This is in here to give everybody's brain a break. So from where do we go from here? I just want to highlight a couple things that we have done. Sewer separation, I don't know whether everybody is aware of this or not, but we did spend some money a year or so ago. But over the next 12 years, that borrow site that we have and we're developing that's close to all of this work, it will save us millions. It saves us about $5 every cubic yard we move. It's an amazing thing. And the project development team, the construction manager, the ones that thought that idea up and fought for that idea, and we've implemented that idea, and it is working great.
I'm sorry, I must have missed it.
We have a waste borrow site that's bordered by 8th Street. You can get to it where 6th Street ends, and I think that's, is that Locust? Locust Street? And it's down in that gully, and that used to be, I will tell you from the tour I took 3 years ago, that was one of the worst places in town. And we've been able to, after the sewer went through there, dress it up. We're filling it up with all of this waste material, and it will be an asset to this community instead of one of the worst places in town. But it also is going to save us a ton of money. Mulberry, we kind of did a little mini thing on that, and the cost of that was $0. If I could send a thank you card to Corporate Fridley's, I would. I just don't know who to send it to. But they let us use that empty lot out there. Now, here's an example of risks, and the risks that you question whether you're doing the right thing. I question whether I was doing the right thing. Fridley's would only allow us to use that site if we would agree that we could vacate it completely and get out of there and restore it within 60 days. Okay, we have a chance to save $50,000 to $75,000, and we have a chance to take a little bit of risk. We decided that we would try it and we would do it, and it worked out great. But it's a risk that you take to try to be a little bit more efficient and save a little bit of money. I can't hit the bottom one hard enough. You guys, I don't know that you have an appreciation for what this city does. We are the envy of most other cities and counties with how much we recycle. the recycling of concrete and asphalt to aggregate to use on other public projects. We did the airport where we generated all that extra, and we used a lot of that extra on Mulberry, and it saved us a lot of money. Mulberry, about $60,000 it saved us using our own recycled aggregate that we produced. Another page 2. I don't know that it's all that because it's all over and done with, but when we were dealing with the trail that is now headed for the March 21 letting, as kind of a surprise at the end of that, they insisted that we get this agreement with the railroad, with CP Rail. We tried to do it in parallel with the DOT and the CP going along. If we changed it, we sent it to them both at the same time, had them review it as a DOT were reviewing it. It worked out all right, but I think it had more to do with the fact that we already had a well-established relationship with CP with those guys. But they basically signed that agreement and turned it around in less than 24 hours to keep us on track with that project. Unprecedented to get something that quick out of the railroad. I mean, unprecedented. We're also looking at doing some things rather than replace whole streets, a more aggressive concrete patching program. I mean, we are constantly looking at our own work, our own methodology on Mulberry. Instead of digging up and replacing a section of the sewer that needed to be repaired, we are going to slip line that because it's not underneath the pavement and it has very few service laterals in it. It's perfect for that sort of thing. So there's another tool in the toolbox. Okay, so just to reiterate one more time, I mean, once that process is known, we can evaluate, see what can be done faster, better. Cheaper is the wrong word, for less money. We don't want to ever build anything cheap. But we have things that deal with public trust. We are there as the guardians of the public safety, and there are quality of life issues that kind of always tend to push us in the other direction. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, bits of wisdom, I'm done.
Jim, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I've seen a lot of what you've done. I've learned a lot from you. So the input that you have with the state, the input with the DOT as far as in the CP, so I'm glad that you're doing the job that you're doing. Again, when I question you, it's not to make you feel that, I think you're doing wrong. It's just to help me understand. And again, just if there's ways that we can look at things outside the box a little bit, I like that as well too. So
yes, and that's how it's taken.
Jim, do you know around your colleagues around the state, in different towns, what experience they might have with going to DOT and saying, no, not 180 days, we only want to give it 150 working days? What kind of, is there, do you ask for more than you want and it ends up in the middle, or?
Dwayne, and I always pronounce his last name wrong, Whitstock, West Des Moines, city engineer. I know him from previous lives, and he tends to be a resource on things like that. We occasionally talk, once a year for sure. We have a little time to talk, and there's always bits of wisdom like that that I and the other staff that are involved with him try to get from him, because that's a fast-growing big town, big city, and if the DOT is going to cut a deal or a break for a community, that's the one they're going to do it for, because they have so much going through. And his advice is more like a warning, and that is, if you really put the pressure on them to do something because you need it faster, with the DOT, you almost pay that price on the next project because they aren't in that business. So he has done things like that and gotten projects accelerated. But the problem is that through that process, the DOT probably touches those plans as they're getting done and approved 3 times. And their reviews are never that long. It's just the work you have to do to get the compliance so that you can submit it for a review. So if you go to the DOT and say, boy, we really like you to speed your review up, maybe you gain a couple weeks. It's that whole process that, how long does it take you to go get right away? How long does it take you to go get the environmental? And they're not gonna tell you, oh yeah, we're gonna give you the environmental clearance on this in a couple months. they're going to tell you, however long it takes you to get environmental clearance, that's however long it's going to take.
You do know that we have a local boy who's chairman of the Transportation Committee now.
Yes, I do. I patted him on the back the other day, gave him a big hug, and said, "Buddy." But if you go that route, and my sincerest cautions, if we go that route, we may burn the bridge we need a year from now. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim, we appreciate it. We're going to move along on the agenda to item 7, which are comments from council. Councilman Harvey, do you have anything you'd like to share tonight?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilman Raywalt?
No, thank you.
Councilman Spread?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilman Saucedo?
I'm not asleep, Roger. I just want to make a few comments in my own personal view of this. You cannot judge a book by reading one page. As I have sat here on the council being new, I've learned a lot, and you become a product of your environment. There is no good old boy system here. Many of the things that you look are perceptions. As things will move forward, we will see things that will help you understand, but do not look at one fragment of time and say, I understand the whole system. You're only looking at one page. And I will vote my conscience. I came here and was elected by the people to represent the people. And I will do the best for this community because I do believe in this community. I've lived here all my life, and I want to see this thrive in the community. So as we will move forward, you'll see. This is just my opinion. Thank you.
Councilman Natvig?
I just want to remind the public that the budget sessions begin, first full day is Saturday, January 28th, and everybody is welcome. They go on for almost 2 weeks. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bynum?
No comments tonight, Your Honor.
Staff?
Just one comment, Your Honor. We'll have a brief public meeting, overview of Mississippi Drive project at 6 p.m. Next Thursday before the council meeting. The council will be setting the public hearing for Mississippi Drive that night. So 6 o'clock, council chambers, brief overview of the Mississippi Drive project.
I just have a couple things that I'd like to share tonight. January 21st is the next Coffee with the Mayor. We'll be having it at Happy Joe's at 9 a.m. The whole public is welcome to attend. We have nice coffee and conversation in a casual atmosphere where everyone can feel comfortable sharing their ideas and opinions. Secondly, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Your ongoing support of my position and my work to do your will is very heartwarming to me. Next, I would like to ask staff, on behalf of some of the constituents that have contacted me, for a total accounting of how much money has been spent year to date on the city attorney in opposition to the mayor and these proceedings. And next, I'd like to say something to the council about, I hope that they do vote their conscience in these situations. I think it's important that the people elect you and hope that you do vote your true conscience. I know at one time, and Councilman Saucedo, I would say it to you, I asked you about a particular way you voted, and you indicated that you needed to go along with the crowd. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that we're free and open to vote our true conscience and say how we really feel, because that's why the people voted us in. So I appreciate you coming tonight. Have a good evening, and thank you again.
So moved.